After one of the longest and strangest spring trainings in the history of Major League Baseball, tonight it wraps up here in Atlanta as the Atlanta Braves take on the New York Yankees. Hi, everybody. Pete Van Weeren along with Joe Simpson welcoming you to the spring training finale for both of these teams, the Atlanta Braves and the New York Yankees. And, Joe, while it's been a very long camp for the managers, the coaches, front office executives, the media, it has not been a very long camp for the Major League players. At the end of a 3-week period, and the big question after tonight's game will be, was it enough to get ready for the regular season?
I don't think so, Pete. I mean, you talk to guys like Casey Stevenson, the equipment manager. He said a few more days in Florida and he would have been an official resident of the state of Florida. Players, on the other hand, really, I think probably could have used another week. We talked about this a little bit yesterday down at Fort Lauderdale about how this is normally during spring training, the time where the pitchers and the hitters go through a little bit of a tired spell in spring training. Their arms are a little heavy, their legs are heavy, so they could probably use another week to really tune up for the beginning of the season. So we'll see how, even tonight, how this cool weather here in Atlanta is going to affect some of the guys.
And the pitching plans for the Atlanta Braves a little bit different tonight than they have been the last few games.
Yeah, it has been where the starters have been going about 4 innings, and then it's been a steady rotation, a revolving door, if you will, for relief pitchers. Tonight, Kent Merker's going to try to go 4. John Smoltz is going to try to go 4 after Kent, and then we'll see who fills in on the 9th inning. But both these guys want to get ready for their first start of the season with a little extra work tonight.
So the Yankees and the Braves wrapping up spring training finally on this Monday night from Atlanta, and we'll be back with the starting lineups and all the action right after this.
This isn't a regular end to spring training. You might see a full house here at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, but a light turnout thus far. Fans continuing to file in here, but at the moment, probably fewer than 7,000 or 8,000 folks as the Atlanta Braves take the field for the finale of the 1995 abbreviated spring training. And they are greeted with a mixture of boos and cheers here in Atlanta. Here's the starting lineup for the New York Yankees. Wade Boggs will lead it off, play third base. Tony Fernandez at shortstop. Paul O'Neill will hit third. Jim Leyritz will be the cleanup hitter and will catch today. Don Mattingly will bat fifth. Randy Velarde has been inserted into the lineup here late. Danny Tartabull was a scratch, so Velarde will be in left field. Gerald Williams is in center. Pat Kelly will be at second base. And both teams will use the DH tonight. Dave Silvestri will bat ninth for the Yankees and fill the DH role. For the Braves defensively, in the outfield, Dwight Smith will get the start in left field. Marquise Grissom in center. Dave Justice in right. From third to first, Chipper Jones, Jeff Blauser, Mark Lemke, and Fred McGriff. Javi Lopez is behind the plate. And on the mound will be left-hander Kent Merker. You see his numbers from '94. This will be his third spring training start. He had a good outing against the Yankees in his first start of spring back on April 16th, but got roughed up a little bit against the Marlins in his last start. Worked only 2 1/3 innings, gave up 7 hits and 5 runs, 3 earned, walked a batter, struck out 2. He was one of the toughest left-handers, toughest pitchers, period, in the National League last year, though, to hit. As you can see, he held lefties to an average of almost 200, and we'll see how guys like Don Mattingly and Paul O'Neill fare against him here tonight. Pete, I think after some real hot days in Florida, this is also a little shock to everyone's system to come up here. Temperature at game time is supposed to be somewhere around 50 degrees, but certainly quite a difference.
Yes, quite a difference, and tonight we're going to get maybe down as low as into the low 40s before we're through with this game, so a very chilly night here in Atlanta. Although the weather forecast for opening day on Wednesday much better. We're supposed to have sunshine and low 70s on opening day Wednesday against the San Francisco Giants. Well, we're set to go. Wade Boggs leading off at third for the Yanks. There you see the numbers he compiled. A typical Wade Boggs season, and not a typical spring for him, though. He's only 1 for 16 so far this spring, and he fouls back the first pitch 0-1. One of the premier hitters in the game, and I'll bet you 70 to 80% of his hits come to left and left center field. It's even, 1 ball, 1 strike. Tony Fernandez will follow, and then Paul O'Neill.
His approach has always been to keep his hands close into his body, take an inside-out swing, yet he still is able to get the head of the bat out there at times when he needs to.
2-1 the count. The fastball missing, low and inside.
That's not too bad.
That is not too bad at all. Here's the 2-1 delivery. Trying to go the other way with that one, fouling it back 2-2.
Teams have tried different ways to defense him, maybe pitch him inside because he likes to take an inside-out swing. that's actually working to his benefit. I think it's better to pitch him away and play him straight away.
Now the 2-2 on the way, and it's hit right back up the middle into center field for a base hit. Wade Boggs leads off the game, singling off Kent Merker. And that'll bring up the shortstop, Tony Fernandez. Going into yesterday's game, neither one of these teams, the Yankees nor the Braves, had been doing much offensively. That changed certainly yesterday when the Yankees pounded out 4 home runs on their way to a 12-5 victory over Atlanta. The Yankees 4-7 this spring. Braves are only 2-8. You see the numbers for Fernandez with the Reds last year. This spring, 192. A couple of doubles. He's driven in 3. Interesting choice of teams for Tony Fernandez going back to New York. You remember he played with the New York Mets for a couple of seasons and wasn't real happy playing in New York.
Well, you're certainly going to be under the microscope there. A lot of media coverage, and when things went a little sour for him with the Mets, he had a hard time dealing with the media attention. So I'm sure he's hoping to get off on the right foot with the Yankees.
Boggs, the runner at first, being held by Fred McGriff. Little pop right side. McGriff going back. Lemke coming over. Lemke calls him off in foul territory. 1 down. Fernandez fouling out to Lemke. 1 away, and that'll bring up Paul O'Neill, the right fielder. Was having the best season of his career last year. But a slow start this spring, just 172. He's 5 for 29. I think, Joe, I know it's a cool night here and it's held some of the fans away, but I think we've really seen our first statement by the major league fans about exactly how hurt they have been by the strike and how long it lasted, by the size of tonight's crowd. I was thinking about it. The crowds in spring training were pretty good, but actually the spring training fans didn't really have anything to lose when the strike hit last year. They didn't lose their team for the rest of the year. They didn't lose the rest of their season. It's the fans in these home ballparks, I think, that are going to be showing these players just how badly that strike hurt a lot of people. Into foul territory, giving chase. Chipper Jones over near the Yankee dugout, can't get to it, and the count 0-2.
I think everybody pretty much took a wait and see attitude, Pete, about how strong the reaction would be if it was going to be real negative. And it's going to take, I think the people who predicted that it would take a while to win the fans back were right. I think depending on your ball club that you follow, which team you're a fan of, if that team begins to play well or gets off on the right foot and starts winning some, you'll come out a little bit quicker, but it may be a slow process.
Now the 0-2 pitch on the way to O'Neill, missing low and inside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Jim Leyritz moved to the cleanup spot just a few minutes before game time, waiting on deck. Danny Tartabull was originally in the Yankee lineup. He was scratched. Throwing to first, Merker. Back safely is Wade Boggs.
Kent Merker's first start last year was a memorable one in Los Angeles against the Dodgers, where he threw the no-hitter. Again this year, his first start will be at Dodger Stadium, I believe, on Sunday.
Ahead in the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes on O'Neill. That evens the count 2-2. In fact, Kent was making the point about pitch counts are such an important thing during spring training. The pitching coaches keep a real tight control over the number of pitches a pitcher is allowed to throw. And he mentioned that his longest outing last spring, he threw 75 pitches, yet in his first start of the year, that no-hitter against the Dodgers, 135 pitches. So he was able to stretch it out 60 pitches beyond what he had thrown in spring training when the first regular season start came along. There goes the runner. 2-2 pitch is strike 3 call. Throw it on to second base. A one-hopper, and Wade Boggs is out stealing. Jeff Blauser took the throw from Javi Lopez. Paul O'Neill out on strikes. The strike him out, throw him out double play, and the Yankees come up empty in the top of the first.
Yankees get a base hit from Wade Boggs in the top of the first, but that's it. So we go to the bottom half of the inning here in Atlanta and check out Bobby Cox's lineup tonight. Marquise Grissom gets his first at bat in Atlanta in a Braves uniform. He'll be followed by Jeff Blauser, Chipper Jones, and Fred McGriff. David Justice will hit 5th. Javi Lopez in the 6th spot tonight. In the bottom third of the order, a little different. Mark Lemke will hit 7th. Dwight Smith 8th. And you see Ryan Klesko hitting in the pitcher's spot. He will be the designated hitter tonight, just to get a couple more at-bats before the season gets underway on Wednesday. For the New York Yankees in the outfield, Velarde, Gerald Williams, and Paul O'Neill in the outfield. Boggs, Fernandez, Pat Kelly, and Don Mattingly from third to first. Jim Leyritz behind the plate. And 29-year-old Melito Perez on the mound, 6'4", 210 out of the Dominican Republic. Last year, his numbers with the Yankees this spring, 0-1, a 2.57 ERA. He's allowed 2 runs in 7 innings.
And leading it off for Atlanta, Marquise Grissom taking the first pitch a little high, ball 1. Marquise' first appearance here in Atlanta in a Braves uniform. Hitting .222 this spring. He has a homer and 5 RBIs. Hit a home run the very first game he played in spring training, none since. 2-0 the count on Grissom. Melito Perez, the younger brother of former Brave Pascual Perez. A lot of the same mannerisms, too, you'll notice. And he's up high and tight. The count goes to 3-0.
One of the good things for Marquise Grissom, Pete, is gaining the knowledge that the Braves had in the way they pitched to him, that Clarence Jones has passed along to him. They felt like he had some weaknesses or some holes as he draws the walk, but he has now, from all the experience of the Braves pitching staff, learned how they worked him, and maybe it'll make him even a better hitter and maybe get on base a little bit more for Atlanta.
Leadoff walk puts Grissom aboard and brings up Jeff Blauser. Jeff just 188 this spring, 3 for 16. You can really sense a difference in the spring training, the abbreviated spring training the major leaguers have had this time around, with spring training ending. Just the atmosphere and the attitude going into this final game. Usually when you have a full spring training and you play about 30 games, you get to about game 25 and you say, let's get the season started. And those last 5 games kind of drag spring training to a seemingly endless conclusion, but not this time around. This time around, it's here already. It starts Wednesday. And you're right, Joe. Some of the hitters only had 15, 16 at-bats for Jeff Blauser coming into this game. The pitchers will have only had 3 turns, the starting pitchers.
It's cut by at least a half. But as I said in our opening comments, the only thing that bothers me a little bit is the soreness and the tenderness and maybe some arms and legs. And will we see an abundance of injuries in the first 6 weeks of the season that we might not see given a normal spring training?
Teams will be allowed to carry 3 extra players through the 15th of May, so the rosters will open the season at 28. There's your opening day starter, Greg Maddux, who will take the mound for the Braves against the San Francisco Giants on Wednesday afternoon against Terry Mulholland. 2-0 the count on Blauser. And Melito Perez still looking for his first strike. And his control finally finds the strike zone. 2-1. Still nothing new in the umpire situation. Still working with replacement umpires, and a statement issued by presidents of the American and National Leagues today indicating that they have not made much progress with the umpires in the last 24 hours. Still time for that to change by opening day. We'll see. On the ground and fair down the left field line. Marquise Grissom rounds second, heads for third as Velarde runs the ball down. Runners will be at second and third with nobody out. Jeff Blauser with his second extra base hit of spring training. Both have been doubles.
This ball was not hit all that sharp. It was just hit in the right place, and Boggs was playing well off the line. As you see, the ball was hugging the line and got in there for a double for Blauser. Braves could use some runs just for a little confidence boost going into Wednesday. They are only averaging 2.5 runs a game this spring. Last year they averaged 5 runs a game in spring training.
Runner second and third, nobody out for Chipper Jones, hitting .269 this spring with an RBI. Here's a day I'll bet Chipper thought would never come. Playing a game in an Atlanta Braves uniform in Atlanta. After the injury in spring training last year forced him out the whole year, he was able to work out here and hang around the clubhouse, but stepping between the white lines, I'm sure he felt would never get here. That's 2 years ago, those numbers. 1-0 pitch. And the count even. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And you know, he got a cup of coffee with the Braves that September after playoffs and everything concluded in the minor leagues. And he has said that being in the atmosphere of the playoff team of '93 really helped him coming into this spring, knowing that he had a job to lose at third base. He felt comfortable knowing what it was going to take to help a ball club win.
The runners lead. Blauser off second. Grissom off third. And the 1-1 to Jones. There's that split finger pitch down low, and the count 2-1. Ed Mangan and his crew have got this playing surface in terrific condition. Nice play, Perez. They've got the runner look back to second and third. The throw on to first in time. Perez might have had a chance to get Grissom caught on a run down there between third and home, but after he saw him break back toward third, he took the sure out.
Well, and the reason and the smart play is that he would have had to hit Wade Boggs on the run back to third. That would have been a tough play. So he took the easy out instead, which was a smart play for Perez. You're right. Ed Mangan and his crew have gotten a little help here lately, too, from Mother Nature, getting a little rain on this field that has really greened it up, but it's in marvelous shape.
Now Fred McGriff, 227 this spring, a homer and 3 RBIs. That home run came against the Yankees in yesterday's game in Fort Lauderdale. 1 ball, no strikes. It's even now, 1-1. McGriff 30+ home runs every year since 1988.
We'll see how this at-bat goes for Fred, but one thing that will be worth watching early in the season are how Chipper Jones and guys like Mike Kelly react when they've got great RBI opportunities. Are they anxious? Are they trying too hard to get those runs home?
On the ground at first. Mattingly has it. He'll get the out at first. The run scores. Grissom trots home. Give McGriff an RBI and give the Braves a 1-0 lead. Blauser moving over to third. Now David Justice, the right fielder, having a good spring. 346, a homer, and a couple of RBIs. One ball, no strikes. We mentioned the Braves open at home here on Wednesday against the Giants. The Yankees go up to New York to open against the Texas Rangers. A 1-game series with Texas. They play Wednesday. They're off Thursday. So this will be the first time in the history of baseball. First the pitch. Low. 2-0. First time in the history of baseball that the Yankees will take the field for the top half of the first inning and the crowd can start yelling sweep. 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 Win 1 game.
That's a pretty tough travel schedule, too, because they came in here today from Fort Lauderdale, and they'll leave right after the game. Kind of rough on you.
3-0 now to David Justice, who would probably be pitched around in this situation during a regular season game with a base open at first and a right-hand batter, Javi Lopez, due up next.
He'll probably get the green light here if he gets one he can handle.
In the air, foul down the left field line. Long run for Randy Velarde over toward the Yankee bullpen. Can't catch up with it. And the count goes to 3-1.
David, one of the few guys wearing short sleeves tonight. I'm not sure if that's to let us know how good he feels and how much he worked out during the offseason, but he looks like he's in great shape.
He does. 3-1 the count, with Blauser the runner at third, 2 down. On the ground with foul off to the right, 3-2. Braves will have a workout here at the stadium tomorrow beginning at noon through 1:30. It's open to the public, free parking, free admission, half-price concessions here at the stadium if you'd like to come over and watch the Braves work out and have your lunch here. And then Stan Kasten, John Schuerholz, and some of the Braves players will be available for a question and answer session at the end of the workout. Now to first with the walk goes Justice. Second walk of the inning issued by Melito Perez. And runners again at first and third for Javi Lopez.
You can put Javi in that same group, I think, with Chipper Jones and guys like Mike Kelly or Klesko for that matter. I think Javi, when he started struggling a little bit toward the end of the season, just before the strike, I think it's because he expanded his strike zone, Pete. He started chasing a lot of bad pitches. He seemed to be hitting behind in the count a lot early in the year. No real pressure on him to do much, and he had such great success in April and May. I think he was trying too hard later on.
1 ball, no strikes on Lopez. Lopez this spring, 263. A couple of extra base hits, both doubles. 1 run in. Justice at first, Blauser third. 2 men out. That ball well hit to left field and gone, bouncing off the top of the wall. A 3-run homer for Javi Lopez, making it 4-0 Atlanta.
That got the fans on their feet.
It did.
And that did not take long to get out of here. Randy Velarde barely moved. In fact, he didn't even bother trying to get to the wall. He was hoping it would hit the wall and come back to him. That was a lightning bolt. Take another look. He really got out in front of this pitch. Ball tailing into him. Good extension. And either hit right off the top of the fence or the batting cage. Like the back of the batting cage there for the home run.
That'll bring up Mark Lemke, hitting .217 this spring, as the Braves have jumped off to a 4-0 lead here in the bottom half of the first inning. You see Lemke's numbers last year. Very impressive offensive season for Mark a year ago. Perez falling behind everybody in this inning. He's 2-0 now at Lemke. He has walked 2 in the inning. Well, now we get a correction from plate umpire Vance Harris. He says the count's 1-1. Grounded toward first. Mattingly will take this one himself. And that's all for Lemke and the Braves in the bottom of the first inning, but a productive bottom of the first, the keyed by a Javi Lopez 3-run homer. It's 4-0 Braves after 1. Fans bundled up here in Atlanta tonight as we go to the top half of the second inning. Atlanta leading at 4-0. Jim Leyritz, Don Mattingly, and Randy Velarde due up for New York. Leyritz .348, a homer and 2 RBIs this spring.
Well, that was a precious face.
Into right center field. That'll fall for a base hit. And for the second inning in a row, the Yankees get their leadoff man on, bringing up Don Mattingly. One of the most popular players in the game wherever he goes. This spring, Mattingly .273. No homers. One ball, no strikes. I've always noticed about him, Joe, there are some hitters who, when they get up there, they look like they're having a difficult time finding a comfortable hitting position. He looks like he was born to hit. He just looks like he walks into that box and sets up like he's been doing it all his life.
Everything seems so natural for him and so easy. He's got good hands.
And so does Mark Lemke.
Yeah.
Turning that 6-4-3 double play. Second double play of the game for Atlanta.
Take another look. Good pitch by Kent Merker, down and away. Mattingly went after it, hit it right off the end of the bat, and you see the quick turn by Lemke.
Now Randy Velarde playing left field. Velarde .222 this spring. He was one of those players, Randy Velarde was, that went down to Homestead to that free agent camp, and then was re-signed by the Yankees, who he had played for the last few years.
I've always liked this guy.
Very versatile player.
Yeah, and you see his numbers from a year ago. As a part-time player, 9 homers at .279. Came up as a shortstop, but can play virtually anywhere on the infield, and now has added outfield to his repertoire.
2 men out, base is empty. The 1-0 pitch on the way from Kent Merker. And that's high in the air out to deep left center field. Grissom calling for it. And puts it away just shy of the track. And that's all for the Yanks in the second. Another double play helping Kent Merker. It's still 4-0.
Braves Braves lead it 4-0 as we head to the bottom half of the second inning. And a reminder that opening day for Atlanta is day after tomorrow. We'll kick things off with a pregame show at 3:30. And the Giants take on the Braves from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. It'll be Greg Maddux against Terry Mulholland. If you're interested in tickets to the Braves games and their game, and there are some available, there are the numbers to call: 249-6400 here locally.
Dwight Smith leads off here in the bottom half of the second. He's in left field tonight. Split last year between the California Angels and the Baltimore Orioles. Played several years with the Cubs. Signed as a free agent by the Braves. And it's quickly 2-0. In that first inning, Perez behind almost every hitter, and it turned out to be very costly for him. A couple of walks. He has yet to throw a strike in the first pitch to a hitter. It's 2-1 now on Dwight Smith.
Dwight Smith is one of those guys, Pete, that even though he's had a rough spring with only one hit, he's in a good situation in that people know he's going to hit because of his track record.
2-2 the count now on Dwight Smith. Yes, he's only 1 for 19 this spring. Maybe one of the reasons why Bobby's got him in the lineup tonight, trying to get him going a little bit before Wednesday's opener. And he swung at a bad pitch there. That is the first strikeout for Perez. One gone in the bottom of the second. And now Ryan Plesko will hit.
Did he go? Yes, he did. Tried to check his swing, but couldn't stop it in time on the good split finger pitch by Perez.
Plesko has hit well this spring. 400, 10 for 25, a homer, and a couple of RBIs. 0-1 the count. Both teams using the DH tonight in games involving American League teams against National League teams. I guess you can play by about any rules you want. You can let your pitcher hit. You can pinch hit for him with the same guy a couple of times. Take that guy out, bring him back in to pinch hit later. As long as it's in that same spot, the 9th spot on the order. The 1-1. High in the air to right center field. Drifting back is Paul O'Neill. It's not going to have quite enough carry to it. And on the warning track, O'Neill puts it away for out number 2.
What wind we have tonight, and it's pretty stiff breeze is blowing out toward right when you look at the flags at the top of the stadium. That's why when he hit that, I thought that was definitely going out of here. I think I was also maybe thinking of yesterday when the balls were flying out of Fort Lauderdale. Like
yesterday, that ball would have been out. It was definitely a hitter's park at Fort Lauderdale Stadium yesterday. Here's Marquise Grissom, who walked and came around to score in the first inning. And that's the first pitch strike thrown in the game by Melito Perez. Ahead in the count, 0-1. It's even now, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Tomorrow's pregame show includes Marquise Grissom, also visits with John Sherholtz, Bobby Cox, and
Chipper Jones.
Jeff Blauser also included. On Wednesday, I should say. I think I said tomorrow.
2-1 the count now on Grissom. Melito Perez first came to the big leagues with Kansas City back in '87. Went over to the White Sox in '88. Spent 4 years there. And came to the Yanks in '92. He's been a 13-game winner as his high. Did that twice. Once with the White Sox in 1990. Once with the Yankees in '92. Two-two pitch. Full count, 3-2 now on Grissom. Lifetime, he is 7 games under 500, 73 wins, 80 losses. Deep to left field and gone. Marquise Grissom gets all of that one. And that makes it 5-0 Atlanta. One of the reasons that Bobby Cox was so grateful when Marquise Grissom headed Atlanta's way is very, very rare combination of speed, power, defense, and hitting for average.
Another swing where we get some extension. Excellent extension on the pitch that was upstairs a little bit, about belt high, and belted. There was no doubt about that one. Marquise early in spring training showing a real quick short stroke. The last few days he'd been a little tired, but not on that one.
Blauser hits the first pitch on 2 hops to Wade Boggs over to first in time. That'll do it for Atlanta. But it's Atlanta's turn to play long ball today. This time a solo shot by Grissom, and it's 5-0 Braves after 2. The Braves have already matched their top run output of a game for this spring training with their 5-run outburst in the first 2 innings. We go to the top of the 3rd. Gerald Williams leading it off. Hitting 200, a homer and an RBI this spring. Hit the homer in yesterday's game. Must have forgotten his uniform. They've got a different uniform number on him tonight.
He's usually number 29.
Breaking ball in for a strike. 1-1 the count, and Gerald Williams will be followed by Pat Kelly and then Dave Silvestri. Look at a lot of the preseason picks in the media, and you might be looking at the 2 teams that a lot of people say will be going to the World Series this year. This might be a little bit of a sneak preview of what we'll see in late October. Bucky Showalter, fine young manager of the Yankees.
After seeing Montreal play again just a couple of days ago, Pete, I'm convinced, like you are, that don't feel sorry for the Montreal Expos.
No, they're going to be a pretty good ball club. What I have heard from some scouts that I've talked to is that Montreal traditionally has been a farm system. It's been very productive in developing major league players, but that this current crop of youngsters right now, there's a pretty big leap between this crop and the next one. And the Montreal Expos, after this group of youngsters arrives, they're not going to get another good-looking group for 2 or 3 more years. We'll see if that is the case. And there's the first walk issued by Merker.
One of the things that Kent said was a problem for him against the Marlins the other day, Pete, was that he was tipping his pitches off to the Marlins hitters, that he had a tendency to spread his glove out when he was going to throw a changeup. In other words, he would open his glove up looking at the hitter to give himself more room to get that circle change grip on the baseball, and they were picking it up and he knew exactly what he was going to throw.
Now Pat Kelly taking ball 1 high. Kelly having a good spring, hitting .316.
And it's funny, if you've got some veteran players on the bench like the Marlins have now, how suddenly those guys are looking for little things like that from a pitcher that might help their young players.
1 ball, 1 strike the count now on Kelly.
A lot of times a young ball club, an expansion team, they're just worried about one at bat to the next, about hoping to get a hit to stay on the ball club.
Well, you add a Terry Pendleton or a Andre Dawson to a club like the Marlins, and you'll be surprised the effect just having them around, much less on the field, will have. Braves experienced that when Terry Pendleton arrived in Atlanta in '91. Merker throws to first, back safely, Gerald Williams.
Plus, I think with the experience now of Jeff Conine, who's been with that club for a couple of years and has had a little bit of time with the Kansas City Royals, and of course Gary Sheffield, I think those are 2 guys specifically that will benefit from that veteran leadership.
Again, Merker to first. Braves leading at 5-0 here in the top of the 3rd. Two and 1 the count. Upstairs, ball 3, 3-1.
Pat Kelly was a guy that all through his minor league career with the Yankees, he was always being touted as the next second baseman for the big club, and once he got to the big leagues would be there for maybe 10 years, and he hasn't let anybody down. He had a good year last year, hitting .280.
And Kent Merker struggling with his control here in the top of the 3rd. Back-to-back walks to Williams and Kelly. Runners first and second, nobody out. And the batter will be the designated hitter, Dave Silvestri, who is just 1 for 9 this spring. And it doesn't always work that way when you have a player like Pat Kelly being touted all the way up the minor leagues. Usually, in fact, it works the other way. That sometimes is the one label you almost hate to hear about a young player. He's the next whatever.
Sparky Anderson was always
Yeah.
You can always count on Sparky to come up with a good one every spring.
Yes,
for you.
he would. First and second, nobody out. Here's Silvestri. Deep to center field, drifting back, Marquise Grissom to the warning track, to the wall, and he makes the catch up against the wall in right center. Both runners tagging, and both move up. Down to second goes Kelly. Over to third, Gerald Williams. Good play by Marquise Grissom, and get used to that. You're going to see a lot of outstanding defense in center field.
Well, it's pretty obvious the balls are carrying to left. They're not carrying to right or to center. But even though he plays as shallow as anybody in the game, he has tremendous confidence in his ability to go back, and you see why.
Runners now second and third, one down for Wade Boggs, who singled up the middle his first time. I can remember, Joe, back in 1981 when the major leaguers were on strike and we were televising a lot of AAA games. Wade Boggs was playing for Pawtucket, the Red Sox AAA team, hitting the ball fine, but there were a lot of critics that felt that Wade Boggs at that stage of his career was probably not going to be a very good major league hitter. They didn't like the fact that he had so many just little soft lob shots to left field. They said, you know, he's going to have a tough time hitting in the major leagues with that kind of ability. Well, tough time, sure. 335 lifetime average.
Not too bad, and he also put together a pretty good year, I believe, in about 87, 86 or 87, where he hit more than 20 home runs, which shocked everybody.
But third base is a position, along with first base and some of the outfield spots and catcher sometimes, where if you don't hit with a lot of power, you are sometimes not considered a very much of a top prospect when you're making your way up the minor league ladder.
It was 1987. He had 24 homers, drove in 89 runs that year. Playing in Boston, too, though, with that short porch and left, he always racked up a lot of doubles.
3-1 the count now, and Boggs.
Fly ball outs in the International League turned into doubles at Fenway Park.
Off that green monster. Here's the 3-1 and another walk, the third of the inning issued by Merker. And that'll earn him a visit from Leo Mazzoni before Tony Fernandez hits.
You know, he threw an off-speed pitch, it looked like, to Gerald Williams to walk him to start this inning, and that almost seemed out of sync. Kent's a power pitcher. He's got a 5-run lead. It was odd to see him try to trick somebody when the threat of a walk was there instead of going right after him with his fastball. And since then, he seems to be out of sync altogether. His last start against the Marlins, you mentioned that it was a rough one. Again, down in Florida the last week or so, Pete, temperatures were in the mid-80s, sometimes closing in on 90 degrees with a lot of humidity. Tonight, pitching in temperatures at game time 54 degrees and slowly dropping as we go along. You wonder what effect it might be having on him if he's able to, since he's not hitting, sitting in the dugout, had the long first inning. I wonder if it's hard for him to stay loose.
Well, we'll see what happens here. Bases loaded, one down. Here's Fernandez, fouled out to Lemke his first time up, and takes a strike in the outside corner. Merker is starting him off with a fastball,
and maybe the best one he's thrown tonight.
Now the 0-1. Off speed and low, 1 ball, 1 strike.
They certainly don't expect Tony Fernandez to pull Kent Merker in the outfield. Dwight Smith way off the line out in left. Marquise Grissom has shifted over into right center, as you can see. David Justice close to the line.
The 1-1. Again missing, 2-1. Throughout Kent Merker's career, he's had occasional control difficulties. His control has improved with age, but he's run into a little problem with it here in the top of the third. 3 walks that loaded the bases, 1 out. And a count of 2-1 on Fernandez. Sharply hit, nice play. Lemke over to Blauser, 1. Third double play of the day. Turned by Atlanta. This one a beauty, started by Mark Lemke, and that's all for the Yankees. They come up empty, still 5-0 as we head to the bottom of the 3rd.
We head to the bottom of the 3rd inning with the Braves on top. And a reminder, this telecast is authorized under broadcasting rights granted by the Atlanta National League Baseball Club and is intended solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, rebroadcast, retransmission, or pictures or descriptions of this game without the express written consent of the Atlanta National League Baseball Club is prohibited. Blanket time in Atlanta.
Yeah, a night like this ought to get these fans in just the right frame of mind for the San Francisco Giants on Wednesday.
That's right.
This looks like a Candlestick Park crowd tonight. And here's Chipper Jones leading off the bottom of the 3rd. Braves up 5-0. Chipper bounced to the pitcher in the 1st inning. This time to the shortstop Fernandez. 1 pitch, 1 out. And that'll bring up Fred McGriff. He drove in a run when he grounded out to first in the 1st. You know, I hadn't thought of what you talked about yesterday until you brought it up, but McGriff seems like such an integral part of the Braves. It is hard to realize that if he goes through this entire season with the Braves, which I'm sure he will have been with the Braves for parts of 3 seasons, but never a complete one. That's amazing. Joining the team in the trade 2 years ago, then last year a strike-shortened season. Cut short in August. This year a strike-shortened season beginning late in April.
And when you think about his contract being up, will his option be picked up at the end of this season? That possibility exists that if he doesn't come back next year and is not re-signed, then that may be the story of his Braves career. 3 seasons, but never a full season.
1-2, the count on Fred McGriff. Got him with a fastball. And Melito Perez has recorded his 2nd strikeout.
I think he caught Fred looking for that split finger pitch. Fred trying to wait, make sure he didn't get out there too quick, and all of a sudden Melito busts a good fastball on the corner.
2 down, and here's David Justice, who drew a walk in the 1st inning and scored on Javi Lopez's home run. Couple of homers for the Braves in this one. A 3-run shot by Lopez in the 1st, a solo blast by Grissom in the 2nd. Ball 1 low and inside to Justice. Nice play by Mattingly. Perez is there for the throw. And the first easy inning of the night for Melito Perez, who gets the Braves in 1-2-3 fashion. We've played 3. It's 5-0 Atlanta. It is 5-0 Atlanta as we go to the 4th inning. Due up for the Yankees, Paul O'Neill, Jim Leyritz, Don Mattingly, and here to tell you about it, Joe Simpson.
Thanks, Pete. Kent Mercker, thanks to 3 double plays turned by his defense, has pitched out of some jams early on, and he'll face Paul O'Neill to get things started for the Yanks. It's a little low. O'Neill, oddly enough, despite his success with the Yankees, had a hard time playing every day in Cincinnati.
Never could adjust to left-hand pitching.
No. Seems to have that turned around a little bit. Turned around indeed.
Big time.
And that short porch at Yankee Stadium didn't hurt either. John Smoltz begins to loosen up. Probably see him in the 5th. It's a good changeup by Mercker. 1-1. Like the other Braves starters, Kent throws his changeup. Like Maddox, like Glavine, like Smoltz, a circle change. Lemke and McGriff converge. It's off McGriff's glove and into right field for a base hit. You know, I think Mark might have had a better chance at that, except he was trying to dodge Fred as he was diving for it. third hit of the night for the Yankees, and they have their leadoff man aboard again.
You see both infielders on the right side converging, and you see Lemke kind of veer behind McGriff. As that ball kangarooed a little bit when it got on the dirt portion of the infield. Right off the edge of McGriff's glove.
Jim Leyritz singled to start the second inning. Good changeup for a called strike. He was erased on a 6-4-3 double play. In the first inning, Boggs thrown out trying to steal when O'Neill struck out to end the first, and then a big 4-6-3 double play got him out of a tough bases loaded jam in the third. Kent has had a hard time keeping that leadoff man off the sacks tonight. They've all reached. Oh, 0-2 to Leyritz. Caught him looking on the corner. Leyritz didn't like it. But at least this spring, the times I've seen Jim Leyritz, Pete, I've never seen him walk away from home plate with one that he was happy about.
Well, he might have had a beef on a couple of pitches of the 3 strikes that got him out this time. The first one wasn't all that close either. He kind of glared back at plate umpire Vance Harris after that one. You don't mind one bad call every once in a while, but when you get 2 and 1 at bat, that'll get you talking to yourself.
Especially when you're the catcher and you got to go up there and talk to that ump the next half inning. Here's Mattingly. He bounced into a 6-4-3 double play his first time up. Time called as Merker started into his stretch. Mattingly 6 for 23 on the spring. 1 extra base hit. It was a double. And he finds the hole on the right side for a base hit. O'Neill round second. He'll head to third. Justice comes up with it quickly, but Blauser cuts it off. And with 1 out, the Yankees are threatening again. Runners at the corners for Randy Velarde. There's another good piece of hitting, Pete, by a guy who knows what he's doing when he's got a little hole to work with on the right side, even with a left-handed pitcher. Mattingly knew he didn't have to hit the ball hard, just try to roll one through the right side.
Well, you got your first baseman holding the runner, opening up that wide open space.
Velarde flied out to center his first time up. Another double play would get him out of this inning. Changeup gets away from Lopez, but not too far away. Paul O'Neill at third, Mattingly at first. 5-0 Atlanta, and we're in the top of the 4th inning. A chilly night here in Atlanta. One 0 pitch to Velarde. Good off-speed pitch, but it's a little bit high, and it's 2-0. And Gerald Williams waits on deck. I think Mr. Vance Harris behind the plate's having a hard time pleasing everybody. 2-0 pitch. Must have been a little bit low. 3-0, and let's see if Willie Randolph gives the green light to Velarde here. Mattingly won't be running. 3-0 pitch, fouled back. He was hacking away and got a good one to hit, but couldn't connect. Last year, Kent Merker pitched 112 innings, made 17 starts and a couple of relief appearances, and he threw only 2 double play balls, Pete, or only 5 double play balls, and he's thrown 2 tonight. So highly unusual for him.
Plus that third one with the strikeout and the caught stealing on Wade Boggs.
3-1 to Velarde. Mattingly not running. Changeup up high. He walked him, and that'll load him up. That's the 4th walk issued by Kent Merker tonight. Gerald Williams drew a walk his first time up to start the 3rd inning.
Unlike Steve Avery's game yesterday, where he got into the 4th inning and got up in his pitch count up into the mid-60s, Leo Mazzoni looking on there, and Bobby Cox came out in the 4th inning, took Avery out. Merker just hit 50 pitches.
He's thrown an awful lot of off-speed pitches early in the count when he's got a 5-run lead. I know he probably wants to work on that pitch some. This is a spring training game, remember. There's a fastball, got right in on Williams' hands, and he popped it up. Infield fly rule called. And there's 2 down. There's the good live heater.
Well, Merker said early in spring training that because of the reduced schedule this year and the fact that he was only going to get 3 starts going into the regular season, that he really cared nothing about results, about how many runs he gave up or how many walks he issued or how many hits he allowed. He just wanted to work on his pitches and get to the good rhythm where he was pitching and feeling comfortable about himself, and then also feeling good the next day, the day after. Not overextending. But he said results really mean nothing down here, especially when you only have 3 times out to prove yourself.
Kind of a funny line there with 4 hits, 4 walks, no runs allowed. Still an opportunity here for Pat Kelly. He pops one up, foul territory, long run for McGriff, but he's not going to have a chance to haul that one in as it drops over into the old picnic area down the right field line.
This is really the first year also for Kent Merker coming to a spring training, regardless of its length, and knowing that he's going to be in that starting rotation.
The most he walked in any start last year, 4, and that's how many free passes he's issued tonight. The 0-1 pitch to Kelly, a little high. 2 base hits and a walk have loaded him up. Paul O'Neill singled off McGriff's glove. Mattingly singled to right, and Randy Velarde drew the free pass. 2 outs. Braves on top, 5-0. Good pitch. They must have had Pat Kelly looking for an off-speed pitch there as he took one that looked like a good pitch to hit about belt high. Now 1-2. Let's see what Kent does. Runner at second base. They're going through a series of signs, and obviously Kent and Javi have not landed on the one that they can agree on, at least, to try to get this out. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Didn't offer. 2-2. Pat Kelly, 6 feet, 182 pounder. Born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, now lives in Clearwater Beach, Florida. Two and 2. 3-2. And now everybody will be running. Puts a little added pressure on the infield in this situation, because you don't have the easy route to go to second base. If the ball's hitting the hole to Blauser, let's say, he's going to have to try to go all the way across the diamond to first because the runners will be moving. Payoff pitch from Merker. Foul back. Good rip by Kelly. Just missed it.
In that situation where you have the bases loaded and 2 men out and a 3-2 pitch coming, I always like to watch that runner at third and see which route he's going to take. That can get dangerous. Paul O'Neill down there, and he has to get out of harm's way on his way in. And he circled. Oh, he almost ran behind Willie Randolph. I
can tell you from experience, that's the place you would like to go, is right over near the on-deck circle somewhere.
See where he is. Watch where he goes.
Another payoff pitch. The runners are on their way. He walked him and walked in a run. And the fans let him hear about it. It's 5-1 Atlanta. 5th walk issued by Kent Merker. He walked 3 in the 3rd inning, and he has walked 2 here in the 4th. And now Dave Silvestri steps in, and Silvestri backed Marquise Grissom up to the center field wall his last time up before Grissom was able to haul it in. Silvestri with a great year last year at AAA. 25 homers, 83 RBIs. Change up, bounced about 3 feet in front of Javi Lopez. He can't corral it. That gets Mattingly home. 5-2 Atlanta. And that's a wild pitch. Charge to Kent Merker. And it looked like a changeup, Pete.
Yes, it did. Take another look at it here. Trying to hit the outside corner of the plate. Missed in 2 locations. He missed inside trying to go outside with it, and then bounced it off Lopez's glove.
Runners now at second and third. And the 1-0 pitch to Silvestri. In the dirt again. That was a fastball.
I think Kent's beginning to
2-0.
tire just a bit now here in the 4th inning.
Have you got a pitch count on him?
I will add him up here, and that's maybe going to be, well, no, they're going to have Leo Mazzoni go out and talk to him.
Probably just to give him a bit of a breather.
He has thrown 61 pitches.
I asked him in the clubhouse if he was going to be on a pitch count tonight, if he had trouble getting through 4 innings, how far would they go? And he said he thought in the 60s his last outing, even though he was not able to get out of the 3rd inning, but that he hoped to stretch it to 65 or 70 pitches tonight. So he's right on that mark. Might be a question of mechanics there that Mazzoni wanted to straighten out for him. Yankees have 2 runs on 4 hits. They have collected 5 walks. But the Braves lead it thanks to a 3-run homer by Javi Lopez in the 1st inning that capped a 4-run inning, and a solo shot by Grissom in the 2nd. 2-0 to Silvestri. 3-0. I'm surprised he didn't go back to the windup. He has struggled throwing from the stretch. Maybe the windup would make him feel more comfortable, but it's 3-0. First base open. Wade Boggs on deck. Silvestri had the green light, but he lays off a fastball, and a generous strike, I think, given to him by home plate umpire Vance Harris. 3-1 the count. Kent's 3-1 pitch. Fastball. Did he go around? The appeal made. He did not go around, and that's ball 4. Walk number 6. And the 3rd this inning. And that's 41 walks issued by Braves pitchers to 18 issued by opponents.
You can see Bobby Cox's displeasure with the call by first base umpire Ryberg. Bobby thought it was a swing and should have been called a strike.
Well, here's Boggs. He has singled and walked. Bases loaded again. 2 outs. 5-2 Braves. There's a strike. Wade Boggs rarely swings at the first pitch.
He and Tony Gwynn, 2 of the great hitters in the game, and very similar in their hitting habits.
Very patient. 1-1 the count. Because of Boggs' approach, Pete, you think as a left-handed pitcher, especially with the stuff that Kent has on his fastball, you think you can throw it by him inside, but that's exactly where Wade invites you to come. Sends well off the plate. 2-1. Infields and the outfielders, for that matter, have got to be on their heels a little bit, with 6 walks issued.
It's been a long inning.
3 2/3 innings. 2-1 to Boggs. Line to left field. Dwight Smith got a good jump. Slides. Got leather on it, but couldn't come up with it. That gets 2 runs home. Silvestri moves around to 3rd. And that makes it a 5-4 ball game.
And Joe, your timing was perfect on the defense being a little bit back on their heels. That's the kind of thing that'll happen when the defense does get a little bit back on the heels after a lot of pitches have been thrown. A ball hit sharply like this one by Wade Boggs can sometimes catch a little bit by surprise, losing his footing out there and not even coming close to making a clean catch.
I'm not sure if Dwight Smith had good line on that all the way out there too, Pete. He might have lost it in the lights here at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Well, John Smoltz gets the call, and we'll be back right after this. right back in this one. They've put 4 runs on the board against Kent Merker, and now John Smoltz gets the call. He has worked in relief in all his outings in spring training, and he's pitched quite well.
And I think he will start out the year in that role. They don't want to rush him back into the starting rotation too soon, even though he is going to try to go about 4 innings tonight. There are some off days that come up early in the season, and I'm not sure if Bobby's going to stick him in that starting rotation right away or use him out of the bullpen a couple of times first and try to stretch him out a little bit before giving him a start.
This is his 3rd appearance, 4 2/3 innings, only 1 hit allowed, 1 run. He has walked 3, struck out 3, and I was watching him throw on the side yesterday down at Fort Lauderdale, Pete, and he looked real sharp. He felt good. In fact, he's said he's been trying to not overthrow. He feels so good. He's afraid that if he overdoes it, he might actually extend himself a little bit too much.
It's been the one surprising thing to Leo Mazzoni. All these pitchers run a program to get themselves ready for the start of the regular season, and they really felt, because of the surgery and coming back from it, that Smoltz would have to be held back a little bit this spring. But he's kept pace with all the other starters for what they've been able to do, either in the side sessions or in the game.
Good slider to start Fernandez. 2 outs, runners at the corners, 5-4 Braves. Merker worked 3 2/3 innings, gave up 5 hits, 6 walks, 2 strikeouts. (101) the count to Fernandez as the Yankees have batted around here in the 4th inning. Fernandez 0 for 2. He's popped to second, grounded into a double play. Two and 1 to the switch hitter. Fernandez played quite well for the Reds last year. Forced to play third base, which he was not happy about, but hit .279, 8 homers, 50 RBIs. Now Smoltz is behind 3-1. Five runs, 3 hits for Atlanta, 4 runs, 5 hits for the Yankees. See if Boggs is moving. He is not, which gets away from Lopez. Here comes the runner. Now they've got Silvestri hung up as the ball came right back off the backstop to Lopez. Toss to Smoltz with a tag in the out. And a tough break for the Yankees, and Dave Silvestri, as the ball hit the concrete in back of home plate, came right back to Lopez and got Smoltz and the Braves out of a big jam because he had walked Tony Fernandez. But the Yankees put 4 runs on the board. We go to the bottom half of the 4th inning, 5-4 Atlanta.
It is 5-4 Atlanta. We're heading to the bottom half of the 4th inning with a reminder that the NBA playoffs just a few days away.
TBS for all the NBA playoffs as Javi Lopez leads off the Braves half of the 4th inning. He had a 3-run shot over the left field wall, a low bullet his first time up. Takes ball 1 from Perez. 5-4 Braves. Did he go around? No, he did not, says Cy Ryberg. 2-0. Lopez now 6 for 20 on the spring, 2 doubles and the home run. He'll be cutting it loose here if it's close. And he sends another drive to deep left field. Velarde goes back. He looks up. A light tower shot in deep left field. Javi Lopez 2 for 2 with 2 home runs. 6-4 Atlanta. Well, Henry Rodriguez hit 4 yesterday for the Dodgers. Javi's trying to keep pace, I guess.
And there's been nothing cheap about either one of them. A line drive over the left field wall with 2 runners aboard in the 1st inning. This one hit high and deep over the left field wall. He got a fastball right down the middle of the plate. And 2 long home runs for Lopez.
That was a launch job. Here's Lemke. He grounded to Mattingly his first time up. Sends a drive into left center field. Velarde coming over, so is Williams. It's Velarde who cuts in front of Gerald Williams for the out. Nice play by Randy Velarde to take extra bases away from Lemke.
And it shows you what you were talking about, Joe, about his versatility. Here's a guy that came up as a shortstop, and it's very, very unusual to be able to take a player. It's almost like what the Braves have been able to do with Chipper Jones. Stick a guy who comes up as a shortstop in the outfield and expect him to make plays like that. But he made that play like he's been playing out there his whole life.
Yeah, and he got a good jump on the ball,
yes, he
too.
did.
Dwight Smith was a strikeout victim his first time up. Perez is fan 2. Fouls that off of Leyritz. 0-1. Be nice to see Javier Lopez get off to the kind of start he mustered up in '94 and then somehow be able to maintain it. That would be a sensational year. One pitch to Dwight Smith. Breaking ball. Didn't get it. I think Dwight is doing something that a lot of hitters will do this time of year if they're a little bit slow at the bat, Pete, and they start opening up that front shoulder a little bit, which does nothing really but slow you down some. 1-2 the count. Ryan Klesko on deck. Got him with a fastball. Dwight knew it. 3 strikeouts for Perez. He has fanned Dwight Smith twice.
Yeah, he is just in an old-fashioned slump now. He's swinging and missing at some pitches, then taking too many good pitches for called strikes. And when things are not going your way, that's what happens.
He'll get it squared away. He's one of those guys who just needed a little extra time. Klesko flying out his first time up. He's about to ground out to Mattingly for his second at bat of the ball game, and that'll do it for the Braves in their half of the 4th inning. But a home run, second of the night by Javier Lopez, has given them a 2-run lead as we go to the 5th inning. 6-4 Braves. Well, at least everybody came prepared tonight, Pete. A few blankets, some parkas. Temperature expected to drop down into the 40s before this game ends tonight. And a fairly light turnout for the last exhibition game of the year between the Braves and the Yankees.
Good weather promise, though, for Wednesday. It's supposed to be sunny, low 70s. Don't forget that's a 4:05 game between the Braves and the Giants to finally open the regular season.
Paul O'Neill, Jim Leyritz, and Don Mattingly against John Smoltz here in the Yankee half of the 5th inning. Good breaking ball strike by Smoltz to start it. 0-1. O'Neill has struck out, singled, and scored. Bounced one off the glove of Fred McGriff to get things started in the 4th as the Yankees batted around for 4 innings, 4 runs. 1-1 the count. A little bit inside. 2-1. One thing I was glad to see Smoltz do, Pete, that some pitchers I think mess around too much on, is if they've got a little arm problem of some sort that may require surgery, they wait too long. Line to right field. Justice has to back up a step to keep that one from getting in the gap. And Paul O'Neill is 2 for 3. You know, some guys might think that they can get some therapy or maybe some medication to work out some problems in their elbow or shoulder and wait till January, and then all of a sudden they've got to have surgery and they're not able to pitch till mid-season.
And I've always been baffled by that. Why some players wait and wait and wait when they know it's eventually going to have to happen anyway. I guess they hope that maybe they can put it off for one more year, get the season in. But almost inevitably it seems not to happen that way.
Jim Leyritz steps in. He's 1 for 2 and takes a strike. Leyritz will back up Mike Stanley behind the plate for the Yankees as he bounces one in front of the plate, and the ball actually was in fair territory, but with the spin on the ball it bounced back and hit him in the foot while he was still in the box. 0-2. After each pitch, Leyritz gives you the impression he'd be a pretty good baton twirler. The gyrations he goes through with his bat. Breaking ball misses inside. Strong right-handed batter. 6 feet, 195-pounder. Good breaking ball. Boy, that's a good sign. He had Leyritz way out on his front foot. First strikeout of the night for Smoltz.
Now watch how off balance Leyritz is. He is already into his swing right here and then tries to slow it down a little, but it was too late then.
late breaking slider, and that was the reason it really fooled him. Mattingly has singled, grounded into a double play, has scored a run. Yankees have had their leadoff batter on every inning. Way up high, 1-0.
Joe Hesketh up in the New York Yankee bullpen, a recent signee by the Yanks, and Don Sutton and Skip will be over to tell you all about him in bottom half of the inning.
Don loves that guy. There's a drive to center field, but Grissom has a beat on it. Backs up a couple of steps. O'Neill is tagging, but he'll have to hold up at first base as Grissom gets it back in quickly. 2 down. Also scheduled to pitch tonight for the Yankees, Joe Alsanio, Bob Wickman, and then later John Wetland. Got a pinch hitter for the Yankees too here as Velarde's spot was due up.
Deion James.
Who has made his return to Major League Baseball after a year in Japan. Deion 2 for 11 on the spring. As Lopez has it pop away from him, but able to recover. 1-0. Yankees made some roster moves. Sent out a couple of their young pitchers. Try to reduce their roster. Slider misses high. 2-0. They optioned catcher Jorge Posada and right-handed pitcher Mariano Rivera, who we saw yesterday. They're down to 31 players. They have to make some decisions before Wednesday. 2-0 pitch to Deion James. Swing and a miss. Six to 4 Atlanta. This line score looks a little bit like yesterday. Braves had actually out-hit the Yankees at one point, but the Yankees were hitting them farther. Just a little bit low. 3-1. Hobby wants the fastball. And it's popped up. Out behind second. Lemke or Blauser? It's Blauser who calls for it and makes the catch right on the edge of the grass. And John Smoltz has a good inning. He gives up a hit, but strands O'Neill at first. We go to the bottom half of the 5th inning. Skip and Don head your way. And right now the Braves lead at 6-4.
Welcome back. Don Sutton, Skip Carey with you for the rest of the way. Braves lead at 6-4. 6 runs, 4 hits, and no errors for the Braves. 4-6-0 for the boys from upstate New York, the New York Yankees. Melito Perez will start his 5th inning of work. This will probably be his last inning, and they're going to bring in a left-hander after that.
Upstate New York.
Yeah, close enough. What the heck? It's up from here.
Yeah.
Grissom to lead it off. Well, they came back to us quicker than I thought, so I had to say something. That's Joe Hesketh. Ha, ha, ha. With all that hyping that Simpson and Pete Van Wieren did, you thought I wasn't going to get it out, didn't you? Hesketh, Hesketh, Hesketh. Joe Hesketh. Just don't bring in Andres Galarraga. 2 balls and 1 strike to Grissom. By the way, Deion James did stay in the ball game. He is in left field in place of Randy Velarde. It's 3-1 to Grissom. Marquise perfect tonight. He walked and scored in the 1st inning, homered in the 2nd inning. 3 home runs in the ball game for the Braves, 2 of them by Javi Lopez. Left side, tough play by Fernandez. That is not going to get there. 2nd hit of the night for Marquise Grissom. He stays perfect. His average will now climb up toward the 300 mark.
Fernandez had no chance. He'd been better off holding on to this ball with Grissom running. No contest.
So Grissom starts it with a base hit. Jeff Blauser will be the batter. Blauser doubled in the first inning. Eventually came around to score ahead of Javi Lopez's homer. Grounded to third. Jeff coming along slowly. 1 out of 2 tonight. 4 out of 18 for the spring. Takes one upstairs. 1-0. The way he took that, he kind of gave you the impression that he might have thought that Grissom was going to try to swipe second. And Perez might have thought so too. The Braves with 4 in the first, 1 in the second. The Yankees answered with 4 in the fourth. The Braves added 1 more in the bottom. It's 2-0 to Blauser. Is it my imagination as you see Belliard warming up? Vance Harris has a tiny little strike zone.
Yeah, minuscule, I think, is what we're seeing here.
There you are right there.
Look at Perez. He's fit to be tied.
3-0 to Blauser. Do you green light Blauser here? Pretty good chance that Jeff gets on. Belliard might pinch run for him. And we'll finish up the night at shortstop. Here's a 3-0. Let's see. He's taken. It's a strike. Final exhibition game of this abbreviated version of spring training, the sequel. It's for real on Wednesday when the Giants come to town. Snap throw. Marquise might have been on the move.
Balk.
And it is a balk. So now he's not going to have to steal second. Wonder what they got him for. Maybe not turning.
I don't have any idea, do you?
I think he started his throw over before he stepped toward it. That's not Bob Davidson, is it?
That's Frank Polina.
So Grissom's in scoring position. And Blauser takes ball 4. For Perez, that's walk number 3. Blauser trots down the first. Belliard continues to warm up down in the Braves bullpen. They're at first and second for Chipper Jones. Chipper 0 for 2 tonight. He's been hitting the ball on the ground. Once back to the pitcher, once to the shortstop. 7 out of 28 for the spring without a homer, and he has 1 RBI. Takes ball 1 outside.
Roger Clemens on the 15-day disabled list now.
Maybe longer, huh? Certainly it's going to be longer than the 15 days, but I heard he may not be back till June.
Oof.
Chopper right side. Could be 2. Good play. But Fernandez can't make the play to first. Good job by Blauser of hustling down there. But that was a good play by Kelly. He'll get the force. 1 gone, and Braves at the corners.
Kelly gave him a chance at a double play with a bare hand pick and throw. But Blauser did his job, and Fernandez then tried to turn a play on Grissom, but had no luck.
Very alertly, Marquise Grissom didn't get caught rounding the bag. Bucky Showalter makes his way out there. We may have seen the last of Melito Perez. He's waiting for the umpire to come out.
That may take a while this year until they get this strike settled.
Still, there's a small NATO conference taking place at the mound. And Vance Harris makes his way to the mound. And as he approaches, got to have a little chat.
That's what Bucky wanted to do, was get the umpire out there so he could hand out a rip.
So the pitching change has been made. The conversation will continue. Perez's night is finished. The new Yankee pitcher, Joe Hesketh. for it, bottom of the 5th inning, but the Braves threatening to add some more on. They have them at the corners with 1 out as the Yankees go to the bullpen and bring in left-hander Joe Hesketh. Hesketh just turned 36 out of Lackawanna, New York. Joseph Thomas Hesketh. University of New York at Buffalo. You see his record last year with the Red Sox. Signed to a minor league free agent contract and has made the roster out of spring training. 25 games last year for the Sox, 20 of them as a starter. Originally a second-round selection by the Montreal Expos. And there are a lot of people who thought, a night for bundling, a lot of people who thought this guy was going to have himself one heck of a future as a pitcher with the Montreal Expos. He was 10-5 in 25 starts back in '85, but then did he break an ankle or?
Yeah, it was a play at the plate, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's been so long ago. It really set him back. He pitched effectively for the Braves the short time he was here.
He was a nasty pitcher. Steve Carlton type style of pitching. Slider down and in, fastballs away. He's all set to go, and Fred McGriff will greet him. McGriff 0 for 2, a grounder to first, struck out looking. He almost picked off Mattingly and Chipper Jones with that move. One of the reasons you see guys like Joe Hesketh around for such a long time, if you are left-handed, is you must get out left-handers, and certainly Hesketh has done that. Last year, lefties only hit .220 against him.
Leyritz got rocked with that ball. He's hurt.
It's a cold night, and that may have caught the back of the hand of that throwing hand.
Melito Perez had no luck with Vance Harris, so he's down in the bullpen throwing where he can't be bothered by anybody.
You know, you see that happen in spring training a lot of time when the guy got the work that he wanted out there. That may not be Perez, though.
No, I don't think it is, come to think of it. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and Scott Bankhead has joined him.
The 0-1 to McGriff. Upstairs, 1-1. You see a lot of guys do that in spring training, Skip, where they maybe don't get as much work as they want in a ball game. They get as much as their manager wants. So take it down to the bullpen and stretch it out a little bit more. 1 ball, 1 strike. So Duffy, through the last 9 pitches, called them all strikes himself, and he feels better now.
Yeah, he feels good about himself, and he'll head for the shower.
Grissom at third, Chipper Jones at first. Must have been outside, and it's 2-1.
I think I'll run down and lend him my car. He can take a couple spins around the highway before the Yankees leave town.
The 285 Perez commemorative racetrack.
We didn't realize till years later why he was so lost.
Couldn't find the gas station.
That was part of it.
On the ground and foul. 2-2. McGriff just a little bit out in front of the off-speed pitch. You try to get these matchups if you're a manager. You're a good left-handed pitcher against a good left-handed hitter, but that doesn't always work with Fred McGriff. Fred has been known to shoot left-handers into the alley in left center field. Or down the right field line. That's going to be a fair ball. It's going to be extra bases. Grissom will cruise home. Chipper Jones is being waved to the plate. He'll make it standing. A 2-run double for McGriff and an 8-4 ball game.
Boy, he's a good hitter against left-handers, isn't he?
Stays right in there with them.
As he did there, he didn't get that pitch down and away as much as he wanted to, did Hesketh. And Fred dropped it right inside the line. About a foot fair.
So Fred stands at second, still only 1 out, and David Justice a hitter. Justice walked and scored in the first, grounded to Mattingly for the third out of the inning back in the third inning. David at 333, 9 out of 27 for the Spring. Close the book on Perez.
4 1/3, 5 hits, 8 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, 3 homers.
All 8 of the runs Ernie's. Pitch to Justice downstairs, and it's 1-0. Nice thing about giving up Ernie's now, tomorrow it will be erased from your record. By the way, the 8 runs scored by the Braves tonight, that's tops in this spring training season. Down low to Justice, 2-0. Braves put a 5 spot on the board yesterday against the Yankees down in Fort Lauderdale, and it wasn't enough. Hitter's pitch for Justice. Doesn't get it. 2-1. Down low, make it 3-1. A trimmer, but a much stronger David Justice coming out of spring training here in '95. Swing and a miss, and it's 3-2. He may have chased ball 4.
That's right, Don.
McGriff the runner at second, and a 3-2 pitch due David Justice. Lays off this one. First walk issued by Hesketh. Braves have him at first and second, and the red-hot Javi Lopez will be greeted with cheers as he strolls toward the plate. Lopez, a 3-run shot in the first inning, a solo shot to lead it off in the fourth inning. He came into this ball game without a homer in the spring and without an RBI. His average up to 333. Takes a strike, and it's 0-1. Good stop by Leyritz. I don't think it's the cold weather, but there have been a whole lot of base on balls issued tonight. Merker issued 6. What's that, 11 for the game, both sides, Hal? This is not the kind of game you want if you're the Yankees or the Braves as far as that goes, but the Yankees have to catch a charter out of here right after the game, and then a 3 o'clock workout tomorrow. There's strike 2 to Lopez.
They are playing this one as if they are not eager to return to the Big Apple.
The Braves themselves have a public workout here tomorrow. Gates open at 11:30.
Where's that workout, in Syracuse or Rochester, somewhere in upstate New York?
It's going to be upstate Manhattan. Liner to center. That's going to be a base hit. McGriff will stroll home. Justice stops at second. It's 9-4. Javi Lopez, 5 RBIs.
Watch Fred. He was going to steal third on this play. Went down and got a curveball and hit the daylights out of it. That allowed McGriff to score easily, and he would have stolen the base easily. They were ignoring it.
That'll put Justice at second, Lopez at first, still only 1 out. And Mark Lemke to hitter. Lemke will climb over in the right-handed batter's box. 0 for 2 as a lefty. Could be 2. Pass box in the left field. Justice coming home. Here comes the throw. Could be close and safe. Good slide by David Justice, and he may have hurt himself.
He's all right. I think he just may have gotten hit in the face.
I don't think he caught his new jewelry on home plate.
I hope not.
He's all right.
If this is hit at either infielder, it's a double play, but he hit it right between them. Dion made a pretty good throw here. I thought they were going to get him.
Lopez all the way around to third. Lemke stops at first. They're still at the corners.
He got whacked with the batting helmet. I don't know if the glove got him too or not. If the glove did, then the umpire missed the call, but there was no argument. So.
Here's Dwight Smith. It's been a tough night for Dwight Smith. Off of Perez 0 for 2. Struck out once swinging, struck out another time looking.
Here's another look at the bang-bang play at the plate. He did get in there. Good call.
And a good slide. Just barely nicked the plate with his left hand. Strike 1 to Dwight Smith. It's been a tough spring at the plate for Dwight Smith. He's only 1 out of 21. With 7 strikeouts to this point. To Mattingly, could be 2. To Fernandez 1. To throw back to Mattingly. 3-6-3 double play. That man turns it right there, as good as anybody in baseball. That is not an easy play. That'll put a lid on the 5th inning, but not before the Braves put 4 on the board. They do it on 4 hits and they leave 1 stranded. 5 in the books. You see the score.
Time for the Aflac trivia question, which is, who was the last Yankee to win the Cy Young Award? We will give you some time to think about it and then let you know. A lot of changes here, Don.
Yes, in right field, it's going to be Mike Kelly in place of David Justice. Over at first base, Tyler Houston will replace Fred McGriff. That's Mike Mordecai at second in place of Mark Lemke, and Rafael Belliard will finish up for Jeff Blauser. We will assume they will hit in the batting order of the persons they followed out there. If there's a change, then you'll be the second to know as soon as we find out. Top of the 6th inning, 10-4, 10 runs, 8 hits, and no errors for the Braves. 4-6-0. The Yankees are going to make a change themselves. Bernie Williams is going to replace G. Williams. And he will lead off the 6th inning here against John Smoltz. Smoltz came on in place of Merker in the 4th inning with 2 outs. Merker 5 hits, 2 strikeouts, 6 walks. He allowed all 4 of the Yankee runs. Ball 1 down low to Williams. That's a little bit high, and it's 2-0. Bernie Williams out of San Juan, Puerto Rico. Just 26 years old. He's a big one, about 6'2", 210. There's a strike, and it's 2-1. He's one of those guys that's had a pretty darn good career to this point, about a 270 hitter, and one that kind of slipped through the cracks. He was not drafted. 289 last year, a dozen homers. Stole 16 bases, didn't strike out much, only 54 times. A little bit tardy on that one, and it's 2-2.
I think John Smoltz has answered all the questions anybody had in their mind about his arm. It seems to be in great shape. He seems to be in great shape, and let's hope he has a big year.
First time I saw John this spring, I said, "How are you?" He didn't say anything. He just showed me he could straighten his right elbow for the first time. On the ground, first chance for Mordecai. Unloads in a hurry, and he only gets Williams by about a half a step. 1 out, and Pat Kelly, the hitter. Kelly could have gone to the plate without a bat tonight. He has walked twice.
But if he'd have done that, he might not have walked. They might have just sort of lobbed it down the middle.
I don't know. It looked like there was a time.
So it wouldn't have mattered.
He walked and scored in the 4th inning. 6 out of 19 for the spring. Good breaking ball. Catches the corner, and it's 0-1.
Let's see, we start at 3:30 on Wednesday, don't we?
Yeah, we're going to have a pregame show, right?
Yep.
A plethora of interviews. There you go, right there. Another breaking ball strike, and it's 0-2.
Lots of tickets remain for opening night and for the Thursday game as well. And for a lot of games. Let's face it, this has been a tough year.
The Giants are in town for those first two. That should have done it. He didn't swing, but I don't know where that was.
That was a pretty good pitch.
It wasn't outside, it wasn't inside, and it wasn't high.
Might have been low.
That's high, and it's 2-2.
But it's not where you catch it. It's where it crosses the old disharoo.
That's right. 2-2 to count to Kelly. Smoltz maybe a little bit frustrated after not getting the call, has now run the count to 3-2.
I don't think it'll bother him much tonight, but starting Wednesday, boy, you're going to see some hellacious arguments. Can you say that on TV? I guess you
At least once. In the air, back our way, make the play, Skip, make the play. Gonna come up a little bit short. Still 3-2.
I got a good jump on that baby.
Boy, you were quick out of the starting blocks.
Sort of like Andres Galarraga. Yeah, reacted.
Nah, not that quick. Still 3 balls and 2 strikes. That should do it. Knee high on the outside corner. Smokes rings up his second strikeout since coming on in relief. 2 gone, and Dave Silvestri, the hitter.
He just buzz bombs him here. Perfect pitch. How he didn't have to move the glove.
And no argument out of Pat Kelly. Silvestri 0 for 1 officially. He's flied to center and he's walked. Takes the heater upstairs, and it's 1-0. John Smoltz working quickly tonight. Good changeup, 1-1. David Joseph Silvestri out of Parkway Central High School in St. Louis, Missouri. You know where Parkway Central is?
Yeah.
Did you go to
Upstate.
Did you go to high school there?
No.
That's upstairs, and it's 2-1.
He's out of the University of Missouri baseball program. Gene McGarter, the longtime coach over there.
That's a good baseball program, isn't it? Big 8 plays good baseball.
Better in Oklahoma, I know that. Tell Simpson I said.
I will. He did not go, Javi, and it's 3-1. Throw it over and see how far he can hit it.
Well, this game needs another walk or two to add to the pacing.
Back our way again and upstairs, and it's 3-2. Throw him another one in the same spot. That'll That'll do it. A lot of pitches, but a 1-2-3 inning for John Smoltz. He sets him down in order here in the 6th inning. We move to the bottom of the 6th. And after that pitch, it's 10-4. Good.
The answer to our Aflac trivia question, who was the last Yankee to win the Cy Young Award? That's the question. And there's the answer, although Jack McDowell is actually the last Yankee to win it. He's a Yankee now, but he won it as a White Sox.
And Klesko is a Brave, and he's leading off the bottom of the 6th inning against Joe Hesketh. Defensive change in center field. Bernie Williams is now out there for the Yankees. Klesko 0 for 2. Fly to right, grounder to first. Takes ball 2 downstairs. Remember, we were talking before about Joe Hesketh and the injury that short-circuited, or really, he's had a nice long career, but there were a number who thought he was going to be a dominating starting pitching. This is with ball 3 to Klesko. Back in '85, he suffered a fracture of the left shin in a collision at home plate with Big Mike Scioscia coming home. And then he had shoulder surgery back in '87. So, but many think that it was, there's ball 4 to Klesko. Many think that it was the shin that really got him derailed, and he never really got back on track. He issues his second walk. That's going to bring Bucky Showalter out to have a little visit with him.
It's going to bring Scott Bankhead into the game, too.
It's also going to bring a new pitcher in. So Hesketh's night is over. The Yankees are going to go to the bullpen. There's a look at the new pitcher, Scott Bankhead. Inning, the Braves trying to add some more on. A leadoff walk puts Klesko at first, and it brings Scott Bankhead into the ballgame. Bankhead last year with the Red Sox. There are the numbers. Pretty good control. Almost a strikeout an inning. He was on the disabled list from May the 11th to June the 12th, then again from June 16th to July 8th. Yankees got him August 31st after the strike. Got him for a player to be named later in cash. He filed for free agency and then re-signed with the Yankees. Yankees are putting together a pretty good pitching staff there. You know they're going to score some runs.
Yeah, I like their team a lot. And they're in a great division. That's going to be a wonderful race, I think.
Marquise Grissom working on a perfect night will greet Bankhead. Grissom walked in the first inning, homered in the second, singled and scored in the 5th. All told, he has scored 3 of the 10 runs tonight. And his average up to 276. First pitch swinging. That's got to be a base hit, maybe extra. Klesko heads for third. The throw back in. It's going to be a double for Grissom. They're at second and third, still nobody out. Grissom a perfect 3 for 3. Single, double, and a homer.
He's all over this one. High fastball, and he turned on it and ripped it hard. Tell you what, I'll bet you he hits, if he's healthy all year, he'll hit 20, 25 home runs playing in this ballpark.
No doubt about it.
Half the time.
You know, you get caught up in having, you've heard people talk about what a good leadoff hitter is, and that's important basically to start the ball game. How many times is he going to come up with Lemke at second, or maybe Javi Lopez at second, and deliver when he's not leading off the ball game? Here's Belliard, his first at bat.
Bob Wickman now up and throwing in the pen for the Bronx Bombers.
Belliard's first at bat of the evening, 2 out of 14 for the spring. You saw his numbers from last year. He picks on the high one. Shallow left field. Klesko will tag, but I don't think that's going to be deep enough. The catch by Deion James and the throw back in. So Belliard's retired, and Chipper Jones the hitter. Jones is tapped back to the pitcher, grounded to short, on a fielder's choice, and scored a run.
Looks like Smoltzy's going to go at least one more inning here. That's good news, too.
Nobody stirring in the Braves bullpen. outside corner, and it's 0-1. You have been around baseball a long time. Does this guy remind you, Chipper Jones, remind you of anybody you've seen break in? Just in watching him run, maybe not so much his style of hitting. That's on the inside corner, and it's 0-2.
No, I can't honestly say that he does.
I watched him run, and then the other day I happened to see some film clips of Al Kaline running. And just the way they carry themselves and the grace with which they run. Obviously, Kaline not a switch hitter.
Well, if he has an Al Kaline type career, he's going to be okay.
To left center field and hammered. On the run is Deion James. He's going to get there. That'll be deep enough to get Klesko home. Grissom tries for third and makes it easily. They'll give Chipper Jones the RBI sacrifice fly. It's 11-4.
Close the book on Joe Hesketh. 2/3 of an inning, 2 walks, 3 runs. They're earned, 3 hits.
Good base running by Marquise Grissom, too, on that play. Two gone, and here's Tyler Houston. Tyler caddying for Fred McGriff tonight. I gotta tell you, he's looked pretty comfortable at first base. Originally drafted out of Las Vegas High School. First round pick back in, what, 89? Drafted as a catcher. Here's what
He was a switch hitter then, too.
I believe he was. Right at Mattingly. He'll take that himself. That'll put a lid on the 6th inning, but the Braves pick up one more. They do it on 1 base hit, leave 1 stranded. We have played 6 complete tonight. It's 11-4 Braves. There.
Yeah, Ryan Klesko was the DH. He's now in left. Mike Kelly's in center. Dwight Smith moves to right. Jose Oliva at third, and Smoltz deals, and it is a strike. 0-1 the count. Boggs 1 out of 16 on the spring coming into tonight, but he's been perfect this evening. 2 out of 2 with a walk, and he's driven in a couple of runs. Hit .343 for the Yanks last year. That should be easy. Mordecai gloves it. 1 down. So Boggs is retired, and Tony Fernandez will come out and hit left-handed against Smoltz. He walked against him back in the 4th.
Mark that down in your book. That's about as easily as you will ever see Wade Boggs make an out. Oh, you can hit some line drives.
Fernandez stands in. Paul O'Neill moves on deck. Bobby, what are you doing to us? Here's the wind of the pitch. Now the Braves are not going to use the DH anymore.
When the DH goes in to play defensively, you lose his spot in the batting order, and the pitcher has to hit. In this case, the pitcher will hit, I guess, in the 3rd spot.
Yeah, and they have Eddie Perez still available to pinch hit if they need him. The pitch, look out, a little chin music from Smoltz. 2-0 the count. Fernandez takes a little walk around after that pitch.
Not really that close, but Fernandez gets a little antsy in the batter's box, and he moves around. That just kind of a little bit up and in.
A little chopper past the mound. Oliva cuts in front, unloads, close, safe. Infield hit Fernandez. So a runner at first with 1 out.
Infield was back on this. A long run by Oliva. Looks like he didn't get a good grip on the ball. Actually threw a changeup over to Tyler Houston. Nice play. Houston digging it out. That was close, but it was a right call.
Tell you what, he has done a bang-up job at first base. Tyler Houston has all spring. He'll be out of options. I don't know where he'll be next year, whether he'll be a Brave or not, but he's proven he can play that position as well as catch. O'Neill takes a strike. Paul is 2 out of 3, has scored a run.
Tyler Houston seems to have matured somewhat from the brash youngster who came out of Las Vegas back in '89.
Just missed. Smoltz is in shock. 1-1 the count. Jim Leyritz waits to hit next. O'Neill had a heck of a year last year.
He is a good ball player. I don't think there was too much doubt in anybody's mind he was eventually going to flourish as a hitter, but I think it was a real bonus for him going to the American League, where the style of pitching seems to be more breaking balls, more 2-0 curves, more 2-0 sliders, 3-2 sliders, because he is a good breaking ball hitter.
And he doesn't catch up with a good Smoltz fastball. And you know, when you've had arm problems and arm surgery, as John did, when you can throw your fastball by a hitter of the caliber of Paul O'Neill on a 2-0 pitch, you got to feel pretty good about that.
It's a good housekeeping sealer of approval on your recovery.
The 2-2 pitch. Breaking ball stayed high, and it's full now, 3-2.
This is what we're talking about. This is a count we were talking about. In the American League, Skip, more than in the National League, 3-2. Hitters look for a slider or look for something off speed. John right here, with the power he's already shown with his fastball, be better off just buzzing O'Neill right above the belt. I don't think he'd catch up to it. See if he tries to trick him or just tries to blow him away.
Payoff. Tried to trick him and didn't. And 2 are on with 1 out. Smoltz came into the game in the 4th and pitches now in the 7th. That's his 2nd walk. He has struck out 3, and Leyritz will come out to hit. Braves turned double plays in the first 3 innings of this game. 1 here would prove helpful.
I would guess you have to be mentally simulating situations you might see later on in the season to throw a 3-2 breaking ball with a 7-run lead right there, after you just buzz one by him. After all, that's what spring training is for.
Leyritz doesn't get the breaking ball. 0-1. 11-9-0 for Atlanta. 4-7-0 for New York. High and inside. Evens it up with a ball and a strike. Leyritz has singled. He has struck out twice. Once each way. Once swinging, once looking. The runners lead at 1st and 2nd.
He really doesn't look comfortable as a hitter, does he?
You swung the bat well against us this spring, however. That one rocked Javi Lopez 2-2.
You don't see many hitters with that style of hitting. It shows you again there's no one way to do it. You have to be comfortable. Bends the back leg, puts all the weight on it, and is completely straight with his front leg. Watch how he sets up. He'll bend the back leg at about a 45-degree angle and then just straighten the front leg out there. Looks like he'd really have trouble on inside pitches.
The 1-2 pitch about to be made, and here it is. Strike 3 called, outside corner. Leyritz can't believe it. He's out of there. Strikeout number 4 for Smoltz. He drops the helmet and the bat at home plate and says, see you later.
A lot of U-turns for Leyritz tonight. That's the 3rd time. That's twice that he's done it looking, and I believe that here's a look at his stance. Now watch the ball come across. It's higher than the knees, and I believe it caught the outside part of the plate.
Here's Don Mattingly.
Sound carries better on cold nights.
Yeah, 1 ball, no strikes. The beer sales have finally kicked in here down below. 1 ball, no strikes.
You won't believe it. It's a dork in a 3-piece suit.
The stretch, the pitch. Breaking ball. I don't know what was wrong with that either. 2 balls, no strikes. The stretch. The 2-0. There's the strike, 2-1. This guy's got the crowd yelling scab at the umpire.
That is not Richie Phillips.
And he's going to be on the same highway we're on the way home. That's what's terrifying. It's a little squibber foul down the 3rd base line. 2-2. Trying to read Mattingly's lips. It looked like he said, boy, that was a good pitch. To Javi Lopez.
This guy's a good hitter, a very patient hitter. Takes what you give him. Wears out Yankee Stadium on breaking balls coming into him down that short right field line.
And the 2-2 pitch. Kirby just stayed alive. Good piece of hitting there. That was a nasty pitch. Still 2-2.
See, a guy like Mattingly, Skip, goes ahead and commits to the pitch, but if you watch his weight doesn't get over his front foot, so he can stride out, get that right foot out there, but he doesn't get the weight spent, so he still has enough strength left and enough weight left that he can either fight off those kind of pitches. A lot of times he'll hit them hard.
2 balls, 2 strikes. The stretch. 2 on, 2 out. Smoltz can't get together with Javi Lopez. Asks him to start the sequence again. Smoltz steps off. And again, they can't get together. It's not supposed to be that hard, fellas.
1's a fastball, 2's a curve, 3's a slider, wiggle is a change. Unless there's a runner at second, in which case.
And there is.
These pumps roll over at 5. 1 and 5 are fastballs. Add above the waist, subtract below.
The pitch. Grounded weakly to first. Houston has it. Takes it himself, and the inning is over. And Smoltz continues to pitch well. 1 hit, no runs, no errors, and 2 left. We go to the bottom half of the 7th inning with the Braves breezing. They lead it 11-4. For the Yankees now, Jim Leyritz moves from catch to first base. Russ Davis enters the game to play third. And Kevin Elster is the shortstop. Here's Davis.
Stanley is catching.
That's Mike Stanley catching. You all right, big boy?
I've got bronchitis, and Bob Wickman is pitching. So there are all the changes for you. And I apologize for the pipes. Hopefully they'll be well by opening night.
Would you like a lozenge?
No, thanks. You got to have guts in this game, baby. I can think of something I would like that would help it a lot, but I better wait about 20 minutes.
Trying to figure out how to lead you to that.
Yes, well, I think you know. Mike Kelly is the batter, and Wickman deals outside. 1 ball, no strikes. You know, everyone has an opinion on how the Braves will do this year, but only the May issue of Chop Talk gives you columns written by John Sherholz and Bobby Cox previewing the season. To subscribe, call 1-800-700-CHOP. Or look on newsstands for Chop Talk. A ball and a strike to count to Kelly.
Wickman originally out of the White Sox organization, Skip. They got him in the 2nd round back in 1990. He was a part of the deal back in 92 that sent Steve Sachs from the Yankees to the White Sox. He and Melito Perez.
Steve Sachs is running for political office out in California, I read.
He is?
Yeah. I think the state assembly, if I'm not mistaken.
That's perfect.
Kelly doesn't make contact. 1 and 2. I think it's upstate California. Right?
As long as he doesn't have to throw anything.
The 1-2 pitch. That's a great line Pedro Guerrero had in a meeting. Tommy Lasorda was complaining about his guys not thinking, and he said, that does it for Kelly. 1 away. And he said to Guerrero, Pete, what are you thinking about when you're out there? He said, Guerrero in his broken English said, I pray they no hit it to me, and I pray they no hit it to Sachs. 1 out, and Javi Lopez the batter. And that ended that meeting in record time. Lopez wishes he could have saved tonight for Wednesday. A couple of homers, an RBI single, 5 RBIs, 3 for 3.
Wickman's one of those guys that proves you can pitch through handicaps. He's a kid that, as a youngster, a couple of years old, lost the tip of his right index finger in a farming accident. He grew up on a farm in Wisconsin.
Just missed low. A ball and a strike. Little chopper to short. Elster in up. He doesn't miss many. He's a good shortstop. 2 down. And Mike Mordecai steps in for the first time tonight. Mordecai's had a good solid spring. He has a pretty good little ball player. High drive, deep left field. Back goes Deion James, shy of the track. He'll put it away, and the inning quickly comes to a close. We move on to the 8th inning with the Braves leading by 7. John Smoltz is going to work another one. Activity in the bullpen. Greg McMichael and Brad Klontz both up and throwing for Atlanta. Looks like maybe John Wetland heating up for the Yankees.
Tis he.
And Deion James will lead off the 8th inning. Many of the fans have headed for home here. We have never had an announced crowd, but I assume that we will. It was somewhat short of capacity. Deion James has popped to short on his only plate appearance. Weather's supposed to be good tomorrow, and the Braves have a workout scheduled for noon. And players, team presidents, managers, and general managers will answer your questions after the workout. So you can hold your own news conference if you like. Come on up. I don't know how they do that, but they're going to do it. Concessions will be half price. Though beer, they tell me, is full freight. But you don't want to drink at lunch anyway, so come on out and ask questions. Deion can't catch up. It's 2-1. Bernie Williams will be next. Don Sutton, Skip Carey with you from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Pre-game show at 3:30 opening day, Wednesday afternoon. Hit hard, but foul.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk to, speaking of questions for John Sherholtz, I think we're going to have John Sherholtz, Jeff Blauser, and Chipper Jones all on the pregame show.
And Bobby Cox.
He'll be there, too. There it is right there, 3:30. Followed by opening day, the Giants and the Braves.
And then we'll wait for the reviews to come pouring in.
Hopefully they're positive.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
Excuse me, Skip. There's some numbers right there. Seats still available. Season tickets still available, too. So get on the horn. And it's supposed to be a beautiful day on Wednesday.
James checked it. 3 balls, 2 strikes. And the payoff pitch is forthcoming. Hit hard. Houston a good play. Smoltz does his job. 1 out. Good play all the way around there and 1 away.
Pretty good reflexes. You can see he goes down to the knee and stays with that ball. Kept his eye right on it. Came up, didn't try to outrun Deion James. Gave the good feed, a little bit high to John Smoltz. A couple of good athletes on both ends of that. I think that is going to put a lid on the night for John Smoltz. He definitely has to be on a pitch count. Because before that ball got to Tyler Houston, Bobby Cox made his way out, said, "Nice job, John. Congratulations. We got a new pitcher."
So Greg McMichael gets the call, and we'll be back right after this. Smoltz, 3 2/3 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Look great. And now Greg McMichael gets the call for Atlanta, and he comes in with 1 out and nobody on. I don't know why they didn't just let him start the inning. but they didn't. And Bernie Williams is the batter. McMichael, this is his 4th appearance, higher in run average, 6.75. He has no record, and he's been thumped. They're hitting .353 against him. He'll finish this inning, and then in all likelihood, Brad Klontz will pitch the 9th. If things go according to plan, and McMichael delivers, and there's a fly ball to center field, well hit. But Kelly is back there, shy of the track, 2 down. And Pat Kelly is the batter.
I think that first pitch right there is one of the things that Bobby Cox is going to look for this year. You obviously have an offense that's going to score a lot of runs. You have starting pitching that should get you late in the ball game, but on those nights where maybe they don't, count on your offense to score some runs, and if you're a reliever in the middle, come in and throw strikes.
Like that, 0-1 the count. (11-4) is the score. The Braves lead it. 0-2. All he's thrown is strikes. You see the numbers for Kelly on the night. One and 2 is the count.
I think I like these umpires. They don't ask to see the ball as much as the other guys do.
Do you really? You wouldn't if you were standing out there in the middle of that diamond. The 1-2 pitch. Hit to third. Oliva gloves it and throws. Close, but he's called him safe. Instead of a rainbow on the throw, so it's an infield hit.
Credit Kelly with some hustle and just a little bit of nonchalant. There's the ante over, the throw right on the mark, and bang, bang. But Kelly made that. He hustled the first step out of there. A lot of times you'll see a hitter hit a ground ball like that, and he'll kind of say, well, there's an out, and the heck with it. But he came out of there firing, got himself a base hit.
Dave Silvestri is the batter. Runner going. That's a key play. Kelly swipes second. They may call that catcher's indifference.
Now they're going to call that total indifference.
The total indifference. That's a stolen base. Breaking ball is outside, and the count evens at 1-1. Runner at first, 2 down. Rifled into deep left, and it is caught by Klesko. Good play, and the inning is over. Silvestri hit it hard, but out. 1 hit, no runs, no errors, 1 left. Bottom half of the 8th inning. John Wetland will come on to pitch. Braves lead it 11-4. Pretty good relief pitcher out there for the Yanks now, John Wetland. 4 appearances this spring. He's pitched 5 innings, and he has allowed no runs. Pitched so well for Montreal last year, but they couldn't afford to keep. Dwight Smith leads it off for Atlanta. Brad Klontz will probably come in to pitch the 9th for the Braves. Dwight's batted 3 times and made 4 outs, 2 strikeouts, and he's hit into a double play.
You're looking at a power pitcher who can overpower you a couple of ways. One, he's got a good fastball. There you see what he did the last 3 years up in Montreal. Better than a strikeout in an inning. Yes, he qualifies for a power pitch. He's got a good breaking ball, and he throws the daylights out of it. He's not afraid to come right at you and throw some strikes.
Dave Silvestri, you saw, has checked into the game to play second. He was the DH. Dwight hit that ball hard, and it drops in front of O'Neill and gets by him, and Smith will at least be at third base. And that's where he'll stop. We'll see how they score it. Wetland is greeted rather rudely. It's a hit and a two-base error.
Yeah, you saw right there. He kind of took his eye off of it. Watch it. Watch his head. Look to the left. I don't think I want to watch this. Skips by him. And then by the time he retrieved it, two-base error.
First error of the night for either team. And Ryan Klesko bats. And the infield comes in. I don't envy them with him hitting.
And all you're doing right here, obviously you're not going to try to save one run. You're going to try to get an out. But this is something you need to do during the season, so they're working on it.
I'd be willing to bet that the squeeze is not called here.
I'd also be willing to bet everybody in that infield would rather have Rafael Belliard hitting.
Why are you picking on him?
I didn't. He's a fly ball hitter.
Look out. 1-1 the count. We used to have a relief pitcher named Chopper Campbell. Great kid. I thought the world of him. Came on the bus one day after a home run, beat him in New York. First 1-1 pitch. High fly ball. Let's see if it's deep enough. Bernie Williams has a pretty good arm. Here's the tag. Here comes the runner. Here comes the throw. It is offline. He scores easily. Sacrifice fly. Anyway, Campbell comes on the bus after giving up a home run that cost us the game, shaking his head, and he had an Indiana Herb Shriner type accent. Those doggone fly ball home runs. Then everybody's trying not to laugh. There's Jose Oliva batting for the first time. Hitting in Grissom's spot on the order.
You said something very important on Bernie Williams right there. He does have a strong arm, but a little bit of an undisciplined. Got a lot on that, but he just barely kept it in the county.
Oliva goes fishing, 0-1.
I don't know whether he's a little impatient or what this spring, or frustrated, but he's watched the front shoulder open up, the left side open up. He's having trouble covering anything away. They're going to do him a favor and come in.
Tell you what, he's in a tough spot because of such a short spring training. He really didn't have a chance to compete for the third base job. The job was given to Chipper Jones during the offseason, and they wanted him to get as much work as possible. So this kid is in a position where he's trying to hit 6-run homers every time he's up there, and that's not doing him any good. Breaking ball is outside, and I don't blame the Braves at all. A 3-week spring training makes things unfair for everybody.
Part of it too, remember, his conditioning program might have been set back a little bit. He went through a liver infection over the winter and had to battle.
Could have been a very dangerous thing. A ball and 2 strikes.
You know, you believe in your fastball and your velocity. When, like John Wetton, you're standing out there, you see the guy flailing wide open and wanting something inside. He's tried to come in on him the last 2. Good time now to drop a little spinner on the outside. Or a big spinner to the screen.
Yeah, that was cute. 2-2 the count. Well, it's been since August 12th. We'll finally have one that means something Wednesday. The 2-2 pitch. Did he go? Yeah. That is the second out of the inning.
Good, hard, sharp breaking ball. Starts it off looking like a strike. Tight spin, goes down and away, and Oliva had no chance on that one. See, that's the second pitcher. Remember we said earlier he's an overpowering pitcher. He can do it with the fastball. Boy, when you mix that in there, one of the reasons that Wetland has been so successful.
Upstairs to Belliard, 1 ball, no strikes. If he gets, the ball carries well in cool weather. If he gets fastball up like that, not quite enough.
He'll fly to right.
Just missed. 1 hit, 1 run, 1 error. And I don't know if anybody was left or not. No, they were not at the end of 8 innings. It's 12-4.
Some nights it gets awfully boring in the bullpen, and many a quilt has been crocheted down there. It looks like a Bedrosian production.
Oh. You're tough. You are really tough. This is Russ Davis leading off for the Yankees in the 9th against Brad Klontz, who checks in. Davis, a power hitter who played last year at Columbus, had 25 home runs.
Klontz has had a good spring. I really like him. As a matter of fact, I think tomorrow is Brad Klontz's birthday.
Well, happy birthday to him. He gets suspended at a workout.
Let me check that out for us. I know it's important.
2-0 is the count. You are correct, sir.
Tomorrow he will be all of 24 years old.
I've got socks older than that.
Do they match?
Of course not. There's a strike, 2-1.
I think when I was 24, I was 3.
Well, not much has changed, buddy.
I'll set him up. You knock him over.
The 2-1 pitch. Fouled off at home plate. That hurts on a cold night. 2-2 the count. Temperature is supposed to dip into the low 40s tonight in Atlanta, but
hey, it doesn't have to go far.
no, that's true. We need a St. Bernard to come wandering by here. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Brad thinks it's the middle of the summer, doesn't he?
That's youth. The 2-2 to Davis. Right off the end of the bat. Sawed him off a little bit there. 3-1. Takes care of Davis. And Tony Fernandez will be the batter.
We're talking about Tyler Houston getting comfortable at first. Watch him do something right here most first basemen don't do. Feels it, unloads it in a hurry. Get him to him quick and let the pitcher have time to find the bag. That's a good play.
Kevin Elster is the batter. Elster trying to battle back from some rough back problems in his career. This guy was a fine shortstop for the Mets back in their glory years.
Boy, he could pick it.
Never a great hitter, but he was a good, solid, dependable player. Just missed. 1-1.
He went through a long stretch of ball games. I'm not sure if it's a National League record of errorless ball games when he was with the Mets.
Didn't miss by much. 2 balls and a strike. Javi Lopez with a word for the home plate umpire. Pop. Short center. Kelly comes on. He's there. And 2 are out. And Paul O'Neill is the last hope for the Yankees.
Talking about that record, Skip, Elster won 88 games in a row back in 1988. 287 chances of errorless ball.
Wasn't Belliard getting close to that, and he made a throwing error on a wet field in Denver last year? Pitch to O'Neill. Outside, 1 ball, no strikes.
Anytime you go through a stretch in the infield of even 20 ball games without making an error, you get so many tricky chances. I think you've done a heck of a job. 88 in a row is a lot.
And on playing at home on natural surfaces for Elster too, at Shea Stadium, where you're more likely to get the funny hop. The 2-0 pitch. Outside. 3 balls, no strikes. Did we ever get an attendance? I guess we didn't.
Trying to track it down right now because we have just about everything we need to do the wrap-up totals except the attendance.
What was McMichael's line? Did you get that?
Yes, I did. 2/3 of an inning, 1 hit.
Good. There's a strike, and it's 3-1. That Belliard error was at Florida, not at Colorado. Well, it was close. It was an expansion team. Upstate Florida, too. The pitch. Outside, he walked him. Just what this game needed. So Clounce surrenders his first pass, and Jim Leyritz will be the batter.
No attendance yet?
The stretch. Clounce to Leyritz, who has struck out 3 straight times. There's a strike. It's 0-1.
Let me run some numbers past you, Skip. 25309.
That's tickets sold. Because I guarantee you, all those folks have not congregated at the old yard tonight.
That's also a zip code somewhere.
Upstate someplace, no doubt. This stretch and the 1-1 pitch. Let's get out of here. He looked feeble on that one. It's 1-2. I can hear the footsteps of the St. Bernard. The 1-2. Ground ball. Mordecai has to wait for Houston, and the ball game is over. Leyritz grounds out, and the Braves have won at 12-4. And we'll be back with totals and highlights right after this.
Braves baseball brought to you by Delta Airlines. You'll love the way we fly. And by Aflac, insuring over 38 million people worldwide.
Spring Training 95, both versions 1 and 2 are now history. We're ready for the season. The Braves win the one tonight against the Yankees by a 12-4 score. 12 runs, 10 hits, no errors, 2 stranded for the Braves, 4, 8, 1, and 9 the totals for the Yankees. Merker, a good outing. A little shaky with the control. He gets the win. He's 1-1. Smoltz looked exceptional. Perez, the loser, he's 0-2. 2 hours and 48 minutes in season tickets sold 25309. Put a lid on it, big boy.
And then many of those were disguised as empty seats. Join us Wednesday for opening day. Kick things off with a pregame show at 3:30. Then the Giants come to Atlanta to take on the Braves. Coming up next on TBS, Matlock with Andy Griffith. For Don Sutton, Pete Van Weeren, Joe Simpson, our entire TBS crew. Skip Terry from the ballpark. See you Wednesday. So long, everybody.